Hi there, this is Hansen and welcome to Insights to Impossible. This week we're going to discuss a concept that really can change things around for you fundamentally when you truly understand it. We're going to talk about a tool I've developed called the Impossible Meter that will enable you to really gauge where you are on your ladder towards growth, towards those impossible results you really desire. Because think about it, if you don't know where you are, it doesn't matter where you're going to go. You need to be aware of where you are and where you want to go. Before we dig in though, do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to my channel below to make sure that you stay in the loop on all this phenomenal information coming your way in the near future. You really don't want to miss any of it. It's getting better week by week, that I promise you. The Impossible Meter is a tool, as I mentioned, that I developed to help you understand where you are on that ladder towards your impossible goals, where impossible is at the bottom and I'm possible is at the top. It's literally moving from conformity to mastery. So what are these different steps? Let's go through them one by one, starting at the bottom. We all start out in a stage of conformity. You and I have been programmed genetically and environmentally. Can you recognize getting the same results year in and year out? You have a greater desire, you try harder, you work harder, but the results, they just don't show up. Can you recognize that? If so, you are most likely at that stage of conformity where nothing really moves. The results were the same last year as they were 5 years ago. The next stage is called insight/inspiration. That is where you participate in a seminar, you watch a video like this, you hear somebody say something, you read a book, and you start thinking bigger than your present circumstances. Can you recognize getting that idea, that thing that, man, that would be just the best thing in the world to do, have, or be? But because you can't see how it's going to play out, you let fear creep in and you go back to what you know how to do, back to conformity. I'm sure you can recognize getting that idea, having that moment of insight where you start thinking about how a life of greater success, of greater fulfillment truly looks like. Now, most people bounce back and forth between those two their entire lives. They go from what they know how to do to what really would be great. It's in their intellectual mind, they can see it, but they can't see how they're going to make it happen, so they go back to what they know how to do. The next stage is called decision. So we moved from conformity to insight to decision. A decision must be made, a committed decision towards those goals, to those goals. And we need to be more committed to the goals than to our comfort zone. Because if we are not, we're not going to move past that stage. That decision might mean participating in a seminar. It might be putting a down payment on a house. It might be investing in that business. Whatever it is, it's uncomfortable. You haven't done it before. It's out of your comfort zone. That's why it triggers that uneasiness. But it must be made. So we move from conformity to insight to decision. Let's say you make the decision. Then we're going to move ahead. If you don't make the decision, you're going to potter around with the same results a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, God forbid. Like most people do. They just can't make the decision. When the money will show up, when the time becomes right, time will never be right. You will always be up against that conditioning. It's always going to be uncomfortable. If it wasn't, you weren't growing. Think about that. So the moment of decision, the decision must be made. The next step is then receiving new tools. Because on the other side of decision, better results awaits. Always. So we receive new tools, and this is so important. The next step is called application and discipline, because what we do with them is entirely up to us. If we don't apply those tools, they are not going to make any darn difference. As Bob Proctor says, no amount of reading or memorization or study is going to change the results unless you apply what you study. So that's important, and discipline is a highly misunderstood word. Discipline is just the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. But most people are highly undisciplined. Can you recognize, getting an idea, you want to execute on it, you know what to do, but you get sidetracked? It's said that Our biggest challenge is weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. Think about that. Weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. Most people are highly unfocused. They're like this, you know, they're like ping pong balls. The human attention span has gone from 12 seconds down to 7 in a very short amount of time because we're so distracted constantly. But when we do apply the discipline, when we apply the tools through discipline, that's when we start to see new results in all areas of life. That's called mastery. So we move from conformity to inside aspiration to decision. On the other side of decision, better results awaits. We start to receive new tools, we apply them with discipline, application and discipline, and that leads to mastery. And you have now moved from conformity, from impossible, to mastery. I'm possible. You can do this on your own. I know you can, because I did it to a large extent, but it doesn't have to take you 10 years like it took me. Now, I was a pretty slow learner, but that's a different story. You can make an uncomfortable decision right now. If you're more committed to your goals than your comfort zone, I highly encourage you to do so. You have nothing to lose and you have a phenomenal paradigm shift to gain, because this is all in our subconscious conditioning. It's all in our paradigms. I encourage you to make the decision, apply for the coaching call below, where we will guide you through the process. And this is not just any coaching call. This is an opportunity for you to fundamentally change the trajectory of your life. So don't treat this lightly. In the past, we've offered these coaching calls to our entire email list. We don't do that anymore. We actually screen the applications to make sure that you are a good candidate for growth, because we don't want to waste your time, and our time is becoming fairly precious as well. So if there's something inside of you that really wants to grow, which I know there is, because you and I are the offspring of an endless soul that lives in a physical body, and we are always for full expansion, full expression. So we always want to grow. We always want to do more, to see more, to have more. And if you're in touch with that side of yourself, hopefully that side is speaking to you right now. There is something you want to do. There's something you want to attain. There's something you want to be. But you don't have a system to follow that will enable you to get there. Well, I do, because I lived this journey. This is not theory for me. I lived every single step of the impossible meter, and I can show you how to move through those 6 steps fast and with great results. So click below, apply for a coaching session, and I will see you on the other side where impossible results await. Click like below, subscribe to my channel, and remember, it's not who we are that holds us back. What is likely to be holding most people back are all the illusions, all the false concepts of who they think they are not. Now go live the impossible.